So now we come to the part where how do the courts view illegality in a contract? In the past, it's been a very narrow or very strict application of the concept of illegality. That means a smaller illegality is enough to void the entire transaction. So this is one case that happened in 1998. I was 12 years old back then.
Oh, right.
Just an indication. Anyway.
Yeah. That's right. Sure.
Yeah. If you look at the middle part of the graph, you will see the name Shigenori Ono. That's a Japanese individual who wanted to buy 2 pieces of land in Malaysia. The price of the lands were 6.5 million ringgit.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in that time, during that time, you needed government approval if you wanted to buy anything, buy land above 5 million.
Yep.
So what did our friend do? Our friend decided to break the transaction into 2 contracts.
Okay.
The first contract was he buys the land at 4.9 million, just below the limit.
Okay.
And in contract 2, the remainder of the 1.6 million, if you add 4.9 and 1.6, it comes up to 6.5, right?
Okay.
So he arranges for another contract to be entered with the Malaysian company B below, buying $2 or 2 shares from the husband and wife for 1.6 million.
Yep. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that way he pays 6.5 million in the end, but he avoids paying tax, the full amount of tax to the Malaysian government.
Okay.
And he doesn't need government approval that way.
Yeah.
But a dispute then broke out between the Japanese individual and the Malaysian company, the husband and wife.
Yep. Oh.
Such that he sued to get back the money he paid. Right? So the court said, I'm sorry, I can't enforce this contract because you didn't, the effect of your contract was to cheat the Malaysian government of the full amount of tax.
But it's his money though. This is his money. I mean, 1.6 million is his money. So under Vietnamese law, I don't know, maybe just Wu can verify. He can get back what he paid, even if it's illegal.
Okay. So the illegal part here is he was supposed to pay, let's say 1 million in tax.
Right.
If he bought it in middle way, which is say I buy directly for 6.5 million.
Right.
He would have to pay 1 million in tax, let's say.
Yes.
But because he broke it into 2 contracts, he paid less tax. The court held that because the Malaysian government was supposed to receive 1 million in tax, you have cheated the Malaysian government of that difference in tax.
Yes.
Yeah. And therefore, the entire transaction is illegal. So he could not recover any of the monies that were paid under those 2 contracts.
Wow.
So that was how strict it was in 1998 when I was 12 years old.
Yes.
Now, fast forward to 2020s. The court current attitude is they're not so quick, not so rigid when it comes to illegality.
Yep.
Right. Even though you may have some illegality, the contract is not automatically rendered void. Okay. In fact, the court has now said that you must have a specific act that says that this particular contract is void. Yeah. And even if by you entering into this contract, it causes a criminal offense, that contract is still not automatically void.
Okay.
Yeah.
But explain to me, must expressly declare contract transaction is void. Who declare? The law declare or?
The law declares. So, for example, in your legal system, the decree says this particular contract is void. That's what it means.
Right. Otherwise illegal. Then what? Perform? Not perform.
In most circumstances, or rather, the current trend is it is not automatically void. You will see how serious is the illegality behind. Contract.
So in other words, you say you can perform legal contracts.
There are certain circumstances where that has happened.
Okay.
I'll show you in the next slide. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's take this case for example.
Right.
The contractor is supposed to be registered with this particular body called CID.
Okay.
Okay. If you do not register, it is an offense, a criminal offense.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to do construction work, you must register with the CIDB.
Yeah, same like in Vietnam. Right? You have to have the contractor's license.
That's right. Yeah. But in Malaysia, in this particular case, the contractor did register, but he provided construction work to the client.
Okay.
Okay. There's a dispute over non-payment, and there is an arbitration clause there. It went to arbitration. But after the court process has been exhausted, the Court of Appeal said that the contract is not illegal even if his non-registration is an offense.
Okay.
Reason being, there is nothing in the Act that says providing the construction work is illegal.
Okay.
It doesn't void the contract to provide construction work.
So here the contract is not illegal.
The contract is not illegal.
But if the contract is illegal, would it void it?
Yes, if it was illegal, then it could be voided.
Yeah, I have another questions.
Yeah.
So let's say I represent the client, and the client is the project owner of the expressway, and there was a time where the government prohibited the client to pay the contractors because there was an economic crisis or something and so forth. So they don't pay. They cannot pay. They want to pay, but they cannot. And then that restriction is removed, right? And then the contractor claim for interest for late payment. And the client say, how can I want to pay, but the government stops me from paying. If you ask me to pay interest, it's the same as if you ask me to do something illegal. You command me to, you punish me for compliance with law. The government stops me from paying. So if you are the arbitrator, and there was a case between the arbitration, would you ask from the mentality of the common law lawyer, would you ask the project owner to pay interest to the contractor?
I'm not sure how the interest come. Is it also a contractual interest or is it interest that is allowed under law?
The contract, the true interest for delay payment.
It's
let's say,
contractually.
yeah, if I pay you late, then you would be entitled for, let's say, 10% per year, and I was late for 1 year, but it's because the government stopped me from paying, and I have to ask a lot of approval. In the end, they say, okay, net, I allow you to pay for Alvin, and then as soon as I pay Alvin sue me. Hey, net, you are late by 1 year, 10% extra.
Well, I think we could approach it in two ways. One is that you could add the government into the picture as a party to say, you have to indemnify me for this interest that you caused me to suffer.
Right.
That's one way. Yes. Or the arbitrator could very well say, well, you can't force somebody to break the law.
Okay.
Yeah. So you may not be entitled
so
to
it's
that.
Like yeah, it's a tricky situation.
A bit tricky.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, but yes. Jimun.
Hi. Sorry. Can you clarify the situation on the late payment?
Okay. So let's say Alvin do for me some bill quantity works, and I have to pay him. But I am the government agency, so I can only pay if the government allow me to pay. So because it's not my money, that's my money, it's my fault. But that's not my money. I'm a government agency, and the government agency, the government say that according to the law of state budget, specific money is used for specific purpose. Let's say I'm the owner of 2 express highway. I have money from collecting toll from the other highway, but I can't pay Alvin because the law say that the toll money for the expressway number 1 can only be used to repay the debt for the financing of expressway number 1. So I can't.
Okay, and it triggers late payment as far as your arrangement with Alvin is concerned, right? I think firstly, I don't think that type of transactions fall within the Moneylenders Act, because moneylenders is really about lending financial assistance in the form of money and charging extra, whatever you call it, whether it's a guaranteed profit or interest.
Yes.
So then in Moneylenders Act, which we mentioned earlier, it's all codified. There'll be section 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
One of the sections specifically says that a contract to lend without license is void.
Okay.
So I think that is the context. Yeah. So in your situation, it sounds more like some sort of penalty is triggered due to the late payment. Yes. So it doesn't fall within the prohibition set up in the Moneylenders Act.
No.
Yeah. It's more like,
but is it may I argue that it's illegal for me to pay Alvin at that point?
You can, but I don't think you'll succeed.
Okay, thank you. Yes, proceed. Yeah, thank you.
And we're reaching the end of my presentation. Is how it's used in the context of arbitration. when a respondent is named in an arbitration proceedings, they would tend to want to drag out as long as they can, put up roadblocks. So respondents have been known to use illegality to disrupt it. And there are actually 4 opportunities in which they can raise this argument. The prelim stages, substantive registration, and then the setting side. Registration, I understand from Judge Fu, is not required in Vietnam. It's a domestic arbitration. In Malaysia, you have to register awards before they can be enforced. At a preliminary stage, usually illegality is raised to challenge arbitrator's jurisdiction. But in our Arbitration Act, it presumes that all disputes can be resolved by arbitration unless it falls into either one of these 2 categories. I think it's the same as Vietnam as well. But there are very clear non-arbitrable disputes that's purely criminal, matrimonial matters, and insolvency matters. These are just some examples. And this is also raised by, if it's raised by the respondent during the arbitration proceedings, usually what will happen is that they will say before the arbitrator, this whole agreement is illegal. But that will then come back to the Malaysian common law and the Malaysian contract law position. Whether or not it's legal, that's what the arbitrator decides. But what we have seen is that some of the respondents don't specifically say it's illegal, and then they raise it later during the appeal stage, the setting aside stage. Okay? The courts have said that you must raise it during the hearing itself because you need to give parties the opportunity to address the illegality.
True. Same in Vietnam.
Yes.
We have Article 13.
So,
you are aware of something illegal, you have to raise that soon. Otherwise, you lose the right.
That, and also because otherwise you are considered taking people by surprise. And that's the cartoon that I put there. It's a booby trap. You step suddenly into an argument of illegality that was never raised before. Finally, of course, in registration, it means that you've got final award. You need to go to a Malaysian court and have it registered as a Malaysian court order. But I think in Vietnam, you don't have to if it's a domestic award. In Malaysia, you do. And if you want to set it aside, it's very limited grounds. But one of the grounds is to say that it's against public policy, which is...
Okay, that's my question. It's public policy.
So public policy is actually defined... Oh, sorry, it's not in the slide, but it's in the notes. It has to be... Pull that out. So for public policy, and this is, I'm reading from the case, it violates basic morality and justice such that upholding the award would shock conscience, clearly injurious to the public good, or wholly offensive to a member of the public.
It's similar to English law.
Yeah, it's quite similar. It's also on the... actually, this came from an English case before that we have now adopted it in Malaysian arbitration law.
But what is shock is depend on the person.
It does. It does. And to that extent, Malaysian courts have that sort of degree of discretion to see whether
each person have that perception.
So
shocking and that is not shocking.
That's true. That is true. So what they will do, they will survey the common law across the world to see whether this has been considered as a shock to conscience, etc. But even if it is found to be against public policy, the Malaysian courts have discretion to still not set aside the final award. So that is how we deal with illegality in general in Malaysia.
In Vietnam, they use the general principle of Vietnam law instead of the public policy. But in the resolution number 1 in 2014 on implementing arbitration law, they say that against international, against general principle of Vietnam law means something that you violate public interest. Yes, and it's there should be a general principle. That is in a particular law. That's how they mention it, but then still it can leave some discretion on that. So that's something you have to learn from Malaysia.
It'll be an exchange of ideas. And conclusion is basically now we are more liberal when it comes to illegality. And of course, you can try and use illegality to delay or defeat arbitration. But it's a very high threshold set aside just on the basis of illegality. That's a nutshell of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So maybe